Mandela Day will not be a holiday, but a day devoted to service.
Nelson Mandela means a whole lot to people.
Selflessness. It's about time we rise up.
Nelson Mandela Day, I'm working with an NGO from my community.
So on Nelson Mandela Day, I'll be at the soup kitchen where I work.
Go help in a homeless shelter. That'd be nice.
It is our hope that people will dedicate their time and effort to improve the conditions within their own community.
Madiba started the change. Now it's time to play your part. Take action. Inspire change. Make every day a Mandela Day.
It's wonderful because Mr. Mandela is such an exceptional person. And it's good to share something with him. I hope it makes me as great a human being as he is.
I'm sure it does. I want to take you way, way back now. Do you recall your first ever impression of Mr. Mandela?
My first impression of Mr. Mandela was that he was a very, very brave man. And when I was in high school doing my matric, Mr. Mandela was on trial, and his courage and bravery at a time when he was facing probably a sentence is just immense. It's just impossible to measure. It shows you that it's a person who is not only claiming, to represent other people, but it's a person who really cares very deeply about humanity, and that he means what he says about being prepared to die. Because there are actually very few people, I think, who are prepared to die for the rights of others.
When did the two of you actually meet for the first time?
Well, I met Mr. Mandela when he came out of jail. I was one of the advance team to go and prepare for his trip to the United States when he came out of jail. So that's when I met him, when we were on that wonderful trip to the U.S., where he was lionized everywhere he went, and that I was one of the few lucky people to be with him, so soon after he was released from prison.
And if you look back at the time that you first met him and traveled to the United States with him, compared to your first impression from the Rivonia trial, what was different about the man that you met in person?
Well, I think one of the things about great people is that they are able to be many things to many people in a meaningful way. And the Mandela that I traveled in the U.S., together, of course, with a large delegation of people, was no longer about to be sentenced to death. He was ready to play his role, particularly in South Africa. And one of the reasons we had gone to the United States was to prepare for the first national democratic elections that took place in 1994. But it was also to go and thank the people in the United States and for what they had done to contribute to our freedom.
You talk about him being lionized. Was that difficult to work with and be around?
No, it was wonderful because it was a time when we got to know him again, all of us. He had been away from us for such a long time. And it was a pleasure to get him. And I mean, he was always an inclusive person. And so although he was being honored as an individual, and he always saw himself as a representative of the movement. He's not a jaded human being. So he enjoys himself immensely also. And the thing that makes him enjoy himself most immensely is other human beings. He's always fascinated by the reaction of other human beings, and he's always watching and learning. Like most great teachers, he's always learning.
How did you come to be appointed as his chief of staff in the early 90s when he was ANC president?
Mr. Mandela chose me. He liked the way I carried myself when we were in the United States.
On a probably more painful and difficult note, I believe that you and Dr. Freni Ginwala whisked Mr. Mandela away in 1992, just after he announced his separation from Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Was that a difficult time for him?
Of course it was a difficult time for him. He loved his wife, he loved his family, and that is always a difficult thing for any human being, but also for him, because he had just been out, come out of jail after such a long time.
What was it like to be his master or mistress of ceremonies on his presidential inauguration?
Scary. It was very scary because, it was the most important day in South Africa. And I was the envy of all men with big voices.
Did everything kind of go quiet and just blur and you just did what you had to do? Or were you very present in the moment?
I'm always present in the moment and not that confident, It was a wonderful experience, and I'm very fortunate to have been part of that.
Now, in essence, how would you describe Mr. Mandela as a person? The person you've met, you've come to work with and work for and got to know quite well.
I would say that one of the things that makes him so remarkable is that he can be many people at the same time, depending on the role he has to play. And he plays it to the hilt. He's a good father. He's a good president. He's a good friend. He was always friendly to everybody. He's a good teacher. He's very stern about certain things like time. He's very accommodating, and he is very appreciative. And you're always lucky when you run into a human being like that to work with. That was wonderful. The other one was that although his stature began to change, he never changed. He remained the same.
What do you think his main legacy is or is going to be still?
I think it's his humanity, his honesty, and his ability to face things squarely. And also one of the great things about Mr. Mandela is that if he loses a battle, that does not turn him off. He just continues, not persisting in what he has lost, but in trying to find another way to deal with the problem. He's a wonderful human being.
Your all-time favorite Mandela moment?
I think that things happen from time to time, and good things also don't happen one single time. They happen many times. And I think that the greatest time I've enjoyed or learned from was all the time I was there with Mr. Mandela in the office as Chief of Staff. I learned something from him all the time.
Are you going to be doing anything particularly special on Nelson Mandela International Day and your birthday?
I think I'll be trying to get rid of my cold.
Well, I wish you well. Your birthday wish for Madiba?
My birthday wish for Madiba is that he should be surrounded by love.